Hi guys, so welcome to our home in Kerry. I said that I might make a video from here, and I also said that I might give you a little bit of a tour of the house and of the area, just a little bit of footage just showing you kind of the feel of the house and the views in the surrounding area. But then I realised that I don't have any video editing software on my laptop, which is all I have with me. So I think what I'll actually do is, if I get around to it, I will make a little bit of footage, or at the very least I'll put together a video at some point compiling photographs and things like that to give you an idea of the surrounding area and what, the kind of walks that I've been in, what I've been up to. But I won't be uploading that until I'm back in Edinburgh. So today I just want to make a kind of rough and ready quick video that I don't have to edit, that I can just upload as is to YouTube. So let's hope that this works in one take and that I don't ramble and get off topic. But I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of the conclusions that I've come to over the last couple of months, kind of during and through and after this sort of spiritual slump and general disillusionment with everything that I've been experiencing over the past kind of year. So I feel like now that I'm feeling like I'm starting to come out of the other end of that and to be able to grasp onto kind of the interests and habits and directions that I need to in order to direct myself out of that, that I'm kind of coming to a couple of key conclusions that have helped me to support myself coming out of that slump. And the first one was just something that struck me the other day when I was walking on the beach, which is about a 20-minute walk from our house. It's an absolutely glorious beach, and I promise that there will be, at the very least, there will be photographs in a video after this, but I might even bring my camera down someday and shoot a little bit on the beach for you. So I was walking on that beach one morning, and it was following a day in Kerry when I had been feeling pretty low. And it just struck me that, nothing is a cure-all. And I think I really had Kerry in my mind as something that would cure everything, that would make me feel better, and at the very least that while I was in Kerry I would feel fantastic and that I would be motivated and energetic and just feeling healed and wonderful and spiritual, and that I might struggle to maintain those feelings outside of Kerry, like once I went back to Edinburgh again, but that in Kerry, that Kerry itself would be a cure-all, and as well that spending enough time here would help me bring those feelings back to Edinburgh. And what I have discovered in June and also now in August is that it's not a cure-all. I don't completely escape my mental health problems, the kind of minor waves of depression and anxiety that have been washing over me over the last couple of months, despite the fact that I have been kind of improving things. It's still very up and down, and that's normal. And I still, don't feel artistically motivated as much as I would like, and in some ways actually the lack of routine makes that worse. It actually makes it harder to feel motivated to do things that are actually active and productive. And I kind of had this realization when I was walking on the beach, like having had a really bad day, a really bad kind of slump into feelings of kind of meaninglessness again. I realized that it might not be a cure-all, but I can still keep putting myself in the way of beauty and in the way of things that make me feel like there is meaning and purpose to my life, to existence, to what it is that I'm doing in my life during my time on this earth. And that the important thing is to have optimism, so that even when you realize that something isn't a cure-all, that something isn't going to just magically fix everything, that if you just start doing yoga, or if you just start running, or if you just change jobs, or if you just change location, that you're not necessarily going to fix all of the problems that you have, and that especially emotional turmoil and emotional habits, they're quite difficult to shake, and even physical habits, like the habits, day-to-day routines, and the ability that you have to motivate yourself to do those things that you kind of wish you wanted to do more, which are usually kind of creative pursuits, am I right? Even if all of those things don't magically fall into place, that doesn't mean that there isn't value in the thing that you have started doing, or the place that you have gone to. And it's so important to stay optimistic and to take each day as it comes and to think, okay, so I had a bad day yesterday, but that doesn't mean that this thing that I'm doing or this place where I am isn't going to make me better in the long run, that it isn't going to help me support myself to feel better, to be more myself and to be happier in myself and to be more fulfilled and to just be a more productive person, to create more in this life. So that's been really key for me. Another realization I had was that it's okay to let go of things that I used to find important, things that used to be meaningful to me, things that used to be key to who I am and what I want to do, as long as I'm following up on things that are new, on things that are now kind of enchanting my imagination, things that I want to kind of run away with. As long as I'm allowing myself to do that and giving myself the time and the space to do that, because otherwise I end up with a void. And this kind of balances out the first realization, right? Because while it's very important for me to hold on to the optimism that the thing that brings me some joy, while it might not fix everything, will actually continue to feed me and to help me just improve and feel better. It's also important to realize when things are no longer helping, when things are no longer bringing me that joy, when things, projects or habits or hobbies, anything like that, that just can be released, that can be let go, that I don't have to keep saying to myself, oh, I need to do that, because if I don't do that, I'm not going to feel satisfied, I'm not going to feel fulfilled, I'm going to be disappointed, it's not what it used to be, and so on. I mean, that's really just classic clinging, isn't it? It's just a fear of the unknown and a fear of what my life might look like without those things. And I'm not necessarily talking about anything super specific or really big in my life. At one point, a couple of years ago, it might have been, when I was really letting go of a lot of major actual things and people in my life. But right now it's more vague. It's more about certain feelings or habits that I had in my spirituality, certain ideas that I had about my creative life, or literally certain ideas, certain creative projects, certain book ideas, things like that. Letting them change, letting them go, deciding that I don't have to finish that manuscript that I started, deciding that I don't have to be a visual artist, in the bigger sense that, it's okay if I only pick up my notebook or my sketchbook, that's the word. It's okay if I only pick up my sketchbook, once every 6 months, if that's how often I feel like doing it. So it's kind of a balance between maintaining that optimism and keeping doing the good things even though it's not fixing everything, and also realizing when certain things are I'm really just putting myself through the motions. So yeah, kind of a balance between knowing when you do need to go through the motions with something and keep going through those motions in order to try and kind of get to the other end of it, get to the other side and reap the rewards, and also being able to feel out what those things are that really actually aren't serving you anymore. So that's been kind of an important thing for me to realize too. And then the third thing that I was thinking about was finding a balance between feeling like things have to be all or nothing, and putting enough of myself into something. This is a really difficult thing for me, and this is not something I have figured out yet. I feel like those first two things that I said, that I talked about, are things that I have had kind of minor breakthroughs with, that I'm getting to a point gradually that I kind of have a better feel for, what it is that I have to pick up and keep going with, what it is that I have to kind of let go of, what it is I have to make space for. But in terms of finding that balance, in terms of knowing how much of myself to throw into something, how much time and energy to cordon off for certain things, and knowing how much I actually have to throw everything into one thing or not, that's still very tricky for me. And I think this is really at the core of a lot of my problems as an individual, is that this is a problem for me. I have a tendency to want to throw myself wholeheartedly into one thing. And then I think I have a twofold kind of problem holding me back from doing that. On the one hand, there are too many different things that I want to do. So while I feel like I want to throw myself into one particular project, I also quite logically am saying to myself, well, no, because I need to maintain energy for these things. And I discovered, I have discovered that through doing the masters and through throwing myself wholeheartedly into really just the master's life. So doing the master's research, doing the actual work on my master's, and also socializing around that master's, and that throwing myself into that completely and allowing myself to not actually do anything else at the same time was actually long-term a bad thing for me. That I would have actually been happier if I had been able to cordon off a little bit of time and space and energy for other things, for making more YouTube videos, for more spiritual practice, for more of my own personal reading and thinking and just time. But then at the same time, I feel like there's a certain amount of self-sabotage that goes on, and there's a certain amount of resistance that I experience with regard to really throwing myself into something. And I think I use the knowledge that I need to kind of cordon off a little bit of my energy. I use that as an excuse to avoid actually committing and actually really putting my all into something, because of just the classic fear of failure, the classic kind of perfectionist trap where I feel terrified that if I put everything into something and it doesn't quite work out, that I will feel like I've wasted my time, that there were other things that I should have been doing, and so on, that I will feel regret, essentially, which is, I think, the essential fear of all perfectionists is the fear of regret, and particularly perhaps the fear of regret of wasted time. That there was something else that you could have been done that would have been more perfect. And finding the balance between those two things is tough. And that's going to be something that's going to be really important for me now going back into the PhD, because I feel like on the one hand, I really do need to throw myself into the PhD work in order to be happy doing it. It needs to be something that I am willing to just fling myself into head first and just dive into it, put myself into it, so that it actually is rewarding for me. But at the same time, there needs to be some element to which I kind of hold back certain amounts of myself, certain amounts of energy and time for other projects and so on. If only because otherwise I will burn out, and but also because I don't want to get sucked back into a life of pure academia, because I know that making content here and having my own spiritual practice and my own time, my own space away from that world is important too. And I said in my last video that I think bridging those two worlds will be important and will probably help me with that, will probably help me to balance that, but it's definitely going to be tough because it's hard to know where to draw the line, and it's hard for me not to feel like I'm just holding myself, like reining myself in, and then I often feel like that's the only way for me to self-preserve. That's the only way for me to not burn out, is to kind of hold myself back. And that, in my first year of my PhD, was a disaster. So I feel like I've had the two extremes. And honestly, neither of them were really great. They were both pretty unproductive. In terms of my academic progress, throwing myself into the masters was, it definitely had its benefits. I performed very well during the masters, and then in my first year of my PhD, I mean, I got the work done that I needed to do. I actually got a lot done, but I wasn't happy with what I did. But then at the same time, so looking at it from that perspective, you could say that maybe the first approach was the more positive, but at the same time, by the end of my masters, even by 6 months in, I was very dissatisfied with the direction that I was going in. I was very dissatisfied with the feeling that this was my only world. It caused great turmoil. It caused the kind of dissolution of my spiritual practice, and that it was just really destructive at the end of the day. But then, having said that, holding myself back like that with the PhD and feeling like it was just this sort of little side thing that I had to do in my life that wasn't really my sole focus, it didn't actually really give me space to do a whole lot. I mean, you'll notice that I didn't make that many more videos in the first year of my PhD than I did during my master's. And I don't know where all that time and energy went to. I think I spent it all just feeling kind of anxious about where it was that I was putting my energy in. So that wasn't helpful either. So, I mean, long story short, I don't have the answer to that one yet, and it's something that I'm going to continue to think about all year. It's something I'm going to be very vigilant about. And I'm hoping that having this time and perspective over the last 3 months is going to have helped me, even if I don't have the answers, even if I don't have a clear-cut kind of plan of action, that at the very least I have an idea of what the feelings are that I'm hoping to cultivate during the following year, and how it is I want to be feeling about the different areas of my life, what it is I want to be producing, you know, that I want to be writing more in all areas, that I want to just be giving more in all areas and not feeling scared, not feeling afraid of putting energy into things. And that, maybe that's the key. I don't know. So I'll leave it there for now, and like I say, I won't promise anything about the footage of Kerry, because I know that inertia and lack of motivation might set in, and it mightn't happen. But at the very least, I know I have a lot of pictures, so I could put together a little kind of slideshow. I know that kind of video probably won't be the most popular thing that I produce, but it'll be, I don't know, some of you might want to see that. So I'll put together something, even if it's like a 3-minute video, I'll put together something. So yeah, I'll leave it there, and it's so nice to be talking to you from Kerry. Oh, I never mentioned where I'm sitting. So I'm sitting in front of the fire, as you can see. This is a wood burning stove. This is essentially in the living room, but we have an open plan, and you can probably see behind me. That's the kitchen behind me. So we have an open plan main room downstairs, and that is essentially the living room in the front, looking out on an amazing view of the mountains and the sea, and then the kitchen kind of behind. And this would have been roughly how it was before, but there would have been a wall, and we didn't have those big nice windows looking out on the view, looking out to the south. And the house is essentially a passive house. So because we're facing south, we get a lot of sun, we get a lot of light in those windows. They're triple glazed windows, and we have special insulation, and essentially we don't have any central heating to speak of. The wood burning stove is connected to a pump, and it heats water, and it also heats radiators around the house. So that's kind of our central heating system. But certainly in the summer we don't need that at all, and it'll be interesting to see come the winter to what extent we do actually, you know, how much we have to burn a fire, and whether we can get away solely with just burning small fires throughout the day. So yeah, that's essentially it. And this is the central hub of the house basically, and I feel like the wood burning stove is kind of, it's at the center of the house, like literally, and also figuratively. It's kind of what we sit around. We sit to eat our meal in front of it, and we have couches and armchairs to either side, and this is kind of where the family sits and spends most of their time. We have another room to the back, and we have bedrooms upstairs, but this is kind of the hub of the house. And this wood burning stove, and exactly the way you see it behind, in the center of the room with the open, you know, it's open on either side. It's a vision that I had for a very long time. Well, not a very long time, only a couple of years really, ever since I first saw the house again after 20 years. And it's very meaningful to me for that reason. Makes me just so happy to sit and look at it, especially when there's a fire in it. I'm sorry that there isn't a fire in it today, but it's a very warm day and we really don't need it. So yeah, I think that's about it that I'll say about the house for now. Like I say, I might make another video, might take some more footage and talk a bit more about the house and about the way it functions, and a little bit more about passive houses and that kind of thing, and what our plans for the future would be in terms of being more self-sufficient. And that's very important to us too. But yeah, I think that's a video all of itself. And I'll leave it there for now. So thanks for listening, guys, and I will talk to you soonish, in at least a couple of weeks at the very least, maybe let's say 2 weeks, because I might not get another video up from Kerry. So yeah, take care, guys.